Boruto, but he fights Naruto villains. The Gen Z protagonist Boruto is currently decently strong and puts a lot of pressure on his current villains. But what about the ones his father faced? Would Boruto be able to defeat, or would he get stunned and learn what a true villain is? Does the son of the Hokage stand a chance against the likes of Itachi and Madara? Let's find out after you hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you very much. Boruto is truly fighting powerful villains these days. However, it's true that these antagonists Boruto now has to beat don't even come close to the same level of presence as the ones Naruto destroyed, like Pain or Madara, just to name a few. You can say whatever you want to oppose this, but you're in the minority. That being said, however, presence is not the same as power, and in this video I will demonstrate by showing that many of the villains Naruto faced would be easily defeated by Boruto, while some others he's still a long way from beating. I'm gonna sound like an Itachi fanboy here, since I almost always bring him up in videos like this. Go check them out by the way. But I believe Boruto still doesn't have what it takes to beat Itachi. Am I insane for thinking this? I'd love to see your responses in the comments. But wait, let me make one thing clear to you. Boruto is much more powerful than Itachi. Let's get that out of the way. When we talk about power levels, Boruto is leagues above Itachi. But listen to me when I say that power levels aren't everything. This argument is much more valid when we talk about series like Bleach or Dragon Ball. But if you understand this series as a whole, you have to know that this criteria alone does not define a fight. We're full of super powerful characters who lost to others who don't compare. The problem with facing Itachi is that Boruto isn't used to dealing with opponents like it, meaning that Itachi's main fighting style is genjutsu, and that's where the danger lies. Boruto doesn't have a very good track record against genjutsu. He's fallen into Sarada's illusions and even got caught in the genjutsu of the Gekko that made him attack Shikadai. There's nothing to indicate that being a Uzumaki gives him any immunity to genjutsu. Not even becoming a vessel in the maze arc could save him from being trapped in this ability. Boruto is better than his father when it comes to genjutsu, but that's not saying much. The problem is that Itachi has a tremendous ease in putting anyone unaware in an illusion. He's really good at it. In fact, it's complicated for even experienced ninja like Kakashi to do with, because man, this guy puts someone to sleep with genjutsu just by pointing his finger, and once that happens, it's game over. It wouldn't be difficult for Boruto to fall into Itachi's domains, which he could then layer with Tsukuyomi. On top of that, a fatal combo for sure. And that's not to say it's all sunshine and rainbows for Itachi. Boruto could take the upper hand if Itachi got out of his comfort zone to go for a 1v1 with Boruto. It would be really easy for Boruto, right? Like really easy. Hidan's fighting style boils down to taking the blood of his enemies with that crude scythe of his, to then make his bizarre chakra reflect the damage back on his opponent. But obviously he would never touch Boruto with his blade. That would never happen. That's just impossible. Hidan doesn't even have half the speed of fighters like Mitsuki in Sage Mode or Code, guys that Boruto simply handled with his taijutsu. He barely even has the speed of Jugo, who Boruto was already able to take on when he was a child. There's a huge difference in speed. Hidan can die, but Boruto has a sword and 2 functional hands for him to cut off his head, and so on and so forth. It's easy peasy, but there's more. He could use, for example, the Rasengan to knock him out. No problem. Boruto takes this easily. Would you look at that? I don't think Boruto could bring down Kabuto just yet. You might be surprised, but the truth is that Kabuto is one of the most powerful villains in the final stretch of the war arc, and I think you'll agree with that. Itachi and Sasuke had to team up to deal with Kabuto. Without that, it wouldn't have been possible to nullify the Edo Tensei, and I'm not denying that Boruto is way more powerful than Kabuto, but the thing is, Kabuto is a hard snake to catch. He has super annoying techniques in his arsenal. For example, the White Extreme Jutsu. This releases such a bright light and loud noise that the guy can't move or concentrate to use jutsu. Boruto has nothing with which to counter a technique like that. Now Kabuto is very cunning, you know, coupled with the fact that Boruto hasn't the means to avoid his attacks like the Izanami or Zanagi, and Kabuto has still access to Taiyuya's flute genjutsu, which on top of that is strengthened by Sage Mode. And if you're still not convinced that it's possible for Kabuto to beat him, there's Edo Tensei, and he's the best last user of this jutsu. This is a technique unlike any other. He has infinite bodies prepared to be revived. Boruto doesn't have as much chakra at his disposal to be spending it against Edo Tensei, and Kabuto just with this would complicate Boruto's life a lot and could even win. I'm not saying it's an absolute and immutable truth, but it's possible for Kabuto to win. Kakuzu is quite underestimated, but it's true that he is very powerful too, and one of the Akatsuki members with the highest destructive potential. But against Boruto, he would get a beating. What can you do? Most of Kakuzu's arsenal are ninjutsu launched by his masks. But for Boruto, these jutsu mean nothing. And why is that? Because with karma, Boruto can absorb any ninjutsu Kakuzu launches. Of course, it had 5 hearts to destroy, which would be very tense, but if Kakashi, who only had 1 Sharingan, could still dodge attacks while at the same time dealing with Hidan. Imagine Boruto, who can fly, teleport, and whatnot. He destroyed the hearts one by one, but what if he could use that technique to harden his body and all? Wow, it's an earth jutsu, which is weak against lightning, and Boruto has an affinity for that chakra transformation. So 1 purple lightning, and it's over for Kakuzu. But things get tougher here. We're talking about the elite of the elite. We've reached the top level. I'm sure Boruto has all the conditions to defeat each of the paths of pain in a one-on-one scenario, but there's one problem. It's 6-on-1, and you might say Naruto in Sage Mode managed to defeat all of the pains, but he didn't. He needed the 9 tails. You might think Boruto with karma and all could do it too, but there's one thing to note. Naruto had a whole briefing to fight pain. That gives Naruto a lot of advantage over Boruto, who would go into battle without knowing anything, and as I said, Boruto has all the conditions to defeat each of the paths, but he doesn't know the order to do it. For example, it's no use destroying the animal path or the Azure path. The first one he has to defeat is the Naraka path, because he can revive all the others that are defeated. You see, but the 6 paths formation protects the Naraka, and very few people realizes this at first, and I doubt Boruto could do it too, and when he does, it may be too late. Until then, he could get trapped by the human path, which absorbs the soul, and it's game over. I talked about Kabuto, and now I'm going to talk about Orochimaru, but the snake setting would fare worse against Boruto. The thing is, Kabuto showed a lot more, and has way more ways to avoid Boruto than Orochimaru. Boruto was trained directly by Sasuke, who was the guy who simply outclassed Orochimaru. Boruto has the same swagger as Sasuke and could do the same thing. Boruto would have to make good use of his speed, but a well-placed Rasengan could be enough to defeat him. Unlike Kabuto, Orochimaru doesn't always have Edo Tensei, at least not to the same extent. You could end up with this scenario that he summons Hashirama and Madara at the same time, and that's simply too much for him to handle. Talking about Madara, I think Boruto could deal with previous versions of him, like the one who fought Hashirama at the Valley of the End. At the peak of his power, for example, as the Ten Tails Jinchuriki is way out of Boruto's league. The Ten Tails is one of the greatest threats in the whole series. Even though Boruto has come this far, he still can match that power. Imagine a guy who has the whole 10 tails inside of his body. The limbo alone already makes it too difficult for Boruto, which would prevent him from getting close. The Gudodams remain in absurd danger. They can disintegrate anything it touches, including Boruto. With the potential of the 10 tails chakra, the only thing that could pose some danger to Madara is a well-placed Rasengan, but nothing guarantees that Madara could nullify the effects of this power with a Rinnegan. Boruto still has a long way to go before defeating someone on the level of Madara. This video was made based on what we've seen of Boruto up to the current chapter. I'm sure that over time, the list of villains that Boruto would defeat will get even bigger, but for now, what do you think? Do you agree with this list? Comment below and subscribe to the channel if you like what I do here, and also check out this video where I talk about the 5 ninjas Sasuke wouldn't beat without the Rinnegan. With that being said, thank you for checking out this video, and I'll see you in the next one.